Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports. I don't say, and I'm trying not to say the podcast as much because obviously there's people watching this in a video format. I am joined today by Mia Filardi. Obviously, if you don't know, haven't seen the article, haven't seen the coverage that we had, Mia is a big part of the reason that UW women's hockey even became a thing. Obviously, well, not obviously, but technically not with the team right now, but obviously such a big part of creating that. Me and I had a great chat to even have us in the Iceplex to look at these games and just kind of follow along with that. So, Mia, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to join me. How have things been for you? I know we're going to talk about it later, but I'm sure it might have been a little bit difficult watching the rest of the season play out once you headed over. But how have things been for you? Obviously, just seeing how things have grown, the reception, but also doing your own thing.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here. I'm currently studying abroad in France, which is why I'm not in Seattle. It's been going great. I've been having a great semester so far. Gotten a lot of traveling done, gotten a lot of sightseeing, meeting new people. I definitely miss Seattle and especially the team. And I'm ready in the fall to head back and be a part of the team again and get on the ice again. I definitely miss that part.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, I don't know if they've got any rinks over there that you can use, but might be a little.
I think there's a youth league, but I didn't see any women's teams. I almost was a volunteer coach, but didn't have any time. So yeah, just mostly youth and men's hockey.
So definitely itching to get back out there, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, want to take us back to the earlier years and where things really began for you. I know that in research it said that you had time playing club hockey in Boston. We'll get that in a sec. But where did that really begin? Was it youth hockey like you were just kind of speaking about? Was it club hockey? How did your journey on the ice really take off, or where was the really starting point for you?
Yeah, so I actually started playing hockey in Southern California. I lived there until I was 14. Yeah, so I started because I was playing a whole bunch of sports, soccer, gymnastics, basketball, like whatever I could get my hands on, I was playing. My older brother, he's 2 years older than me, and he joined hockey because my parents were from Connecticut. They're diehard Bruins fans. So they're like on the ice. So he joined hockey a couple of years before me, and I was just always at the rink because of that, always at practices, always at games, just watching in the stands. And I figured, hey, if I'm gonna be here all the time, I might as well get ice, right? I might as well start playing. So I was actually the only girl in the entire organization. I was playing with entirely boys from squirt all the way up to like midget, like 18, 19 years old. I was the only girl in the whole thing on the Ventura Mariners. And that was a lot of fun. Definitely different playing with guys than it is with girls. I really enjoyed my teammates, really had a lot of fun traveling. We did a lot of tournaments. That was just a club team. We did Colorado for tournaments and all over California, San Jose. It was a lot of fun. And then I did that for a couple of years. And when I was 14, so I was about 9 or 10 when I started. And when I was 14, the boys team started checking. And while that was fun, I did one season of checking. It was fun, but I was like, maybe it'll be nice to play with girls and just try something different. So my parents, bless them, drove an hour and a half through LA every day or a couple times a week to get me onto the Lady Ducks. With traffic, it was up to 3 hours, so it was horrendous for them. Thank them for doing that. But so I joined Lady Ducks, Anaheim Lady Ducks team, just for one season. I was the captain of that team when I was there. And playing with girls was like a whole new world. It was incredible. I liked playing with boys, but playing with girls was just so much more eye-opening. It's less physical, more about strategy, more about skating abilities. And yeah, it's just a whole different game out there. So then, yeah, California. And then after that season, when I was 15, we moved to Boston. And that's when I really got going. There's a lot more opportunities for girls to play hockey in Boston than there are in Southern California. So I just dove in, I jumped in, I played club hockey, town hockey, high school hockey. There was like a summer league. I was doing it all. I was like 5 days a week on the ice. It was amazing. I loved every minute of it. So many different people, so many different teams that I met, a lot of traveling around Massachusetts and the Northeast. Yeah, so that was really incredible. And then after high school, took a year and went to Finland for a year. I was an exchange student and I played on the women's team there. That was a lot of fun. It was a different vibe than the teams I'd been on. It was Women. So it was age like 15 to like 45 or 50 on the team. So just anybody in the town who wanted to play could come out and play, and it was still competitive. We still traveled around Finland and played in a lot of games, and that was a whole different experience, and that was a lot of fun. So then I got to UW, and when I got off the ice in Finland on my last game, I was like, oh, it's my last game, ever playing hockey. How sad. And I thought I could live with that, being okay with that. And then I came to Seattle and I was not okay with that. I lasted maybe like one quarter and I was like, oh no, I miss it too much. So then I just got this team going here, and I'm very excited that we're at the place that we are right now. I'm really excited for the team.
It's really interesting to hear the, comparison and contrast in the different places that you've kind of touched on. Obviously, with California and how, there was that contingency of hockey there, and then Boston, which it sounds like is effectively in some ways, I don't want to ruffle any feathers for places otherwise, hockey heaven in a way for you at least. And then, going over to Finland and that culture, and then coming here, which, at least for the longest time, from obviously the Thunderbirds are here, and Everett played up in Everett. And there is that history here, but I'm sure it was a much different environment hockey wise than those other stops along the way. So, I guess you kind of touched on it, but do you have any more thoughts or memories to share from your time in Boston playing the sport?
Yeah. Boston was the time that I think, grew a lot in my hockey career. It was really just being surrounded by girls that were passionate about the same sport as me and being surrounded by opportunities to play. In California, the sport's definitely growing, and I think there's more opportunities now. But when I was there, it was really just either play with boys or drive 3 hours to play with the girls team. And it was okay, but Boston definitely has a lot more opportunities for girls and for women, especially in college now. Yeah, so let's see, memories. I think honestly, the best part about it was my high school hockey team, because never before had I played with people that I go to school with. My team in California was just club. It was just like guys from around the area, different towns, but none of them were really in my school. But being just like surrounded by my teammates at school, seeing them, we were able to do like before game day, we'd wear like our jerseys to school, or we like blackout or whiteout or something like that, and just have fun themes. And then team dinners before the games, team breakfast, things like that. It was like a much more of a community than the club hockey teams that I played on. Those were fun during tournaments when you travel, but this was more of like an all the time community that you get to see them every day and interact with them every day. I think that was a lot of my best memories come from just being in high school with my teammates, and that was incredible for me.
Yeah, you talk about, playing team sports, obviously. I think you hit it on the head. Just that sort of environment was always really fun, wearing the jersey the day of, obviously everything that came with that. No, that's definitely makes a lot of sense where you're coming from with that. This one is interesting because I did an interview a few weeks ago with somebody who said they did not have a favorite person in their sport growing up, which kind of boggles my mind. Did you have any hockey players that you idolized growing up? Was that a thing for you? I'm curious to ask that now, ever since I got that answer, because I feel like if you're gonna play at even the collegiate level, you almost usually do have someone that you have a favorite player or something like that. But is that the case for you? Is it not the case? Did you have any of those people growing up?
Yeah, I definitely had some role models growing up. Like I said, I started off with boys. So most of my early hockey experience and knowledge was shaped just by boys. So my idols were, NHL players. There was, of course, like Sidney Crosby and Ovechkin, all the important ones. And we were in Kings territory. So there was the Drew Doughty and the Jonathan Quick and people like that. And rivals with the Ducks. So Corey Perry. It was that era of just like my entire hockey knowledge was just men and boys. And I think joining the Lady Ducks really changed that for me. I didn't really know that there were professional women's hockey players. My coach, I remember her telling me about Cami Granato for the first time, and my mind was just blown. Like that was just like, oh my gosh, she plays professionally. Like that's crazy. Like I didn't know women did that. And then the Boston Pride formed the NWHL team when I was in Boston. They had their inaugural season when I was there, and I got to go to one of their earlier games. And I actually like ran into Hillary Knight in the stands. She wasn't playing. I like walked by her and I was like, oh my God, that was Hillary Knight. Like, that's crazy. And then of course I was at the Winter Classic 2016 or something, where the NWHL played on New Year's Eve, before the game on New Year's Day. And that was the tournament, unfortunately, or the game, unfortunately, where Dena Lang got hurt. She broke her neck and is paralyzed now from the neck down. So I watched that, and that was horrendous, of course, to watch. But I sort of just found out who she was from that, found her Instagram a couple days later, and just been like following it ever since, just following her journey all the way through recovery. She's kicking ass right now, doing amazing. So I actually saw her at that inaugural or one of the first Pride games too. So I have a picture with her. So that was pretty cool. So I think over time, my idols have shifted more into the female genre, but of course I still watch the NHL, still love the players in the NHL. And especially now on the crack is actually, Ryan Donato is actually from my hometown, from my town in Boston, from Situate, Mass. So that's pretty cool to watch him there. It's a little representation from my high school. That's pretty cool.
You know, with Ryan, at least, I mean, I know he's been a pretty big fan favorite here, and I would certainly like to see him back, you know, but obviously that's up to the front office. No, again, it's
Right.
totally, it's always interesting to me to ask that question, because I was stunned when I was told, no, I didn't have a favorite player growing up or anything like that. I was like, huh, okay. But no, you know, with Cami, at least, I know having her in the organization was really cool. It was just kind of funny to me
Yeah.
when we started selling her book here with the team store. And then the next day she signed to join the Canucks organization. I was like, oh. But no, just
No.
certainly really cool to see the way that, you know, women's hockey continues to grow. Obviously, I know that I don't know how to put it, but there's some stuff going on between the two of the professional leagues, so that's certainly interesting. But talking to Kim Sass about it, and just, you know, learning from her about being a professional in women's hockey there's a lot of cool, and I really enjoyed that conversation. This one is kind of interesting. I mean, I look at sports a lot as great ways to teach lessons. I mean, I kind of have to when you cover as many teams as we do. But there's just so much that goes into it, and so much that plays into the world of sports with, you know, getting youth players involved, what it brings to businesses around the area the stadiums are. There's so much that goes into sports. So I guess I think it's important to ask this question. Is there an important lesson that sticks out to you that the sport of hockey has taught you, or is that something that you might not think about as much?
No, yeah, definitely. And I think the more I play, the more lessons come with it. It's not just like a one and done thing. Each step of the way, each team I'm on, each new leadership role I have, I learned something totally new about myself. Originally, you know, it's sports in general. I think you probably heard this a lot, just like teamwork, working with others, learning how to be selfless and not, you know, hog the puck on the ice and pass to your teammates once in a while and things like that. And off the ice too, you know, how to make friends with people that you don't really have anything in common with except for sport. You know, go to the same school, you know, things like that. But the more I play and the longer I go, the more I learn from hockey. I used to coach little kids. They were like 4, and they really taught me just have fun with it. Let go, don't take it so seriously. Now I've had a couple leadership positions and getting this team started. It's really given me like an opportunity to discover myself and get more confidence in myself as a leader. And also to just discover that I am really passionate about this and discover that I love sharing this passion with people. So I love getting people started in hockey who have never played before. That's like my favorite thing, is watching them try it for the first time. It really, like, the sense of community that you get from this sport. So yeah, I've learned a lot about myself, a lot about, you know, becoming a more confident person, becoming leadership in leadership position, how to be, you know, a president of a team. Sometimes it's not always nice. You got to do things, and you got to push people to respond. And sometimes nobody comes to your meetings, and you just got to, you know, learn how to work with that. And, you know, it's been a long learning experience. And I know that the longer I play, the more I'm going to learn. So it's it's been incredible, and I am excited to continue on. I know that at this point, if I could get this team started at UW, I don't think I'm ever going to stop playing hockey, because I've tried and it just doesn't work for me. So I'm excited to keep the lessons coming as I learn, as I keep with my hockey career.
You talk about continuing to play. It's interesting to me when I would watch Kraken practices. Obviously, they're not doing as much as the actual players necessarily, but seeing how much the coaches still, have the skates, have the sticks, and even referees. I mean, that's part of their job is skating around. I don't know. I find that part in hockey interesting because you still have to technically be pretty active in that regard, even if your playing days might be over. So it is funny how sports kind of stick around with you in that regard. I don't play anything at this level anymore, but I still want to go hit a baseball. My friend RJ with Airboat City Hockey wants me to join his beer league. I don't know if that'll happen. I still have to fully get skating down, let alone handle a puck, but I'll work on it. We've got time over the summer. With that being said, you talked about some of the leadership roles and obviously, being a president and things and having to do adult kind of things. And obviously that's not always the fun part, but getting over to UW here and kind of the reason that I know you now. I know that over the pandemic, obviously, kind of things were tough, and obviously trying to set something like this up, it's going to be way harder than it normally would be if it was under standard circumstances. Obviously there was some doubt. I'm sure it's like, hey, people aren't, it was just a difficult time overall. What positives were there for you at the time? Because obviously I'm sure that with the pandemic and how things were going, you could look at the negatives, but what encouraging signs were there for you to say, hey, people are still in this, we're obviously still going to continue to do this? What kept you, I guess, going? What was the positives that were around at the time that continued obviously the hope to get this whole thing started?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I feel like whenever I get asked something like that, it is about what are the challenges of starting a team in a pandemic, which there were plenty. But there were also lots of positives. And I think one of the biggest things that would keep me going on a day when I feel like nobody's responding, or this isn't going to happen, people aren't believing in us. Our UW women's hockey email, we would get occasional emails from students, like just girls at UW who are emailing, and like, oh my gosh, I saw your Instagram post, or I saw a flyer somewhere, and this is really cool. And like, once it's up and running, like, let me know, I really want to join. And people DMing me on Instagram personally, like, is this happening? Like, I've never played before, but it sounds like a lot of fun. So, just knowing that there were people out there who wanted to play in the middle of a pandemic, they were taking time out of their day to reach out to me and ask about it. That really meant a lot to me. Just those, even if it wasn't a lot, there were just a few people out there who were just like, this is cool, keep going with it. So that was very inspiring. And then that was pretty early in the pandemic. That was when UW shut down, we all went home. So I was at home in Boston, but coming back to Seattle, still shut down, still online classes. But a year later, finding our coaches was, I think, the next big major positive in our team, because that really got the ball rolling. That was when I knew, like, okay, this is actually going to happen. Like, this is something that is very feasible. We can do this. I mean, we always had the men's coach, Matt Clayton, on our side, but finding some of our own coaches, Mel White, Michaela Filardi, and Coach Zip, Lisa Zipperi, those were like incredible steps along the way. And we had some other people reach out about that too. So just like seeing that the interest was there, and knowing that, like, even though we have no money in the bank, these people are still willing to help us out. That was incredible. So those were definitely big positives that really got the momentum going. And then obviously being back in person pushed the momentum even further. We were able to do some recruiting in person and get almost the whole team recruited in Red Square. So that was incredible.
Yeah. And at least in seeing it recently, I think a couple times they've had the tent up in Red Square.
Yeah.
It is kind of cool to see, when they have people come over to look at it, because obviously anytime I go to Red Square and there's something going on, it's like, oh, let's go check it out. And just to see people going up and having those conversations, I'm sure it continues to drum up interest. But no, I mean, obviously I wanted to focus on that because I know that I'm sure the struggles were well documented, right? But obviously there's a different side to that coin, and I wanted to explore that. And then it's ironic that I say that because of this next question, but was there ever a time that it hit a really low where it's like, hey, I don't really think this is going to happen? Or were you able to sort of keep that persistence, keep that drive and hope this was going to happen, and you didn't really look at it ever that way? Or was there a moment where it maybe got to that point where it's like, I don't think this might happen?
There's one moment that sticks out in my memory, and it was pretty early on in COVID. It wasn't necessarily like, let's just quit and give up altogether, but it really was just like, we're not too far into this. I'm having a bad day. Nobody's responding to me. The Facebook Messenger a Facebook group has maybe like 3 people in it. We've never been in person together. We've never gotten together. We don't have any pictures of us. I think I was trying to make a flyer for something on PowerPoint, and I was like, I don't know how to do graphic design. I don't have any pictures. I was like Googling generic hockey pictures and putting like skates on the slide and like making it purple for UW. Just my feeble attempt at a flyer. But yeah, so I remember that moment specifically. I was just sitting at home in Boston. We weren't even back in Seattle. And I was like, nobody's really committing to this. Like, it just seems like we're not too deep in where we could stop now and it would be okay. But I think the drive has always been there of like, no, I really want this to happen. I really want to play hockey at school at UW. I really think it's important for other women too. So, just 1 or 2 bad days like that. But there's so many moments of hope and just perseverance and people reaching out and being like, you should do this. So definitely the positive outweigh the negatives. But yeah, there have been at least one time when I'm like, maybe we shouldn't do this. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, once you started talking about it earlier about the hunger to play hockey again, I kind of figured with you, Mia, that wasn't a thing that stuck around, that idea of maybe giving up. So no, I kind of knew once you started talking about it that way, but I figured, because I know that there are sometimes with some of these things, even sometimes with these professional teams, where things don't happen and they get really close to not coming into fruition. You touched on the coaching staff a little bit. And I know that I think with talking with Coach White, which will be out by now, that they approached you guys. What was the first impression of the coaching staff? I know that, when you're creating a team and you're the president, obviously, and you're helping found this whole thing, you want the right people in place. How did that go early on? Was it, kind of blown away at first, or just working through things and trying to build an understanding of where things want to be? What was that first impression with the coaching staff?
So originally, like I said, we started off with Matt Cleaton, the men's coach, and he was just sort of helping us along the way. So we always had at least one person who was dedicated to coaching us, but we knew we would have to find more because he's the head coach of the men's team. He's very busy. And we weren't actually actively recruiting for coaches at all. We were just sort of getting information about the team out into the world. And we had people reach out to us, a lot of people who were like, hey, this is really cool. I want to be involved. How can I be involved? So we had obviously the 3 coaches that we have now reach out, Mel, Michaela, and Zip, and they reached out. Fani, co-founder, and I, Fani, we interviewed them over Zoom, asked them, what's your timeline look like? What do you want to do with this team? Questions like that, like how dedicated are you? How many days a week can you be here? Things like that. And how long-term are you? We also had people reach out. They wanted to be sort of equipment managers, or another coach that was coaching like 6 other teams and she was too busy. So I think sort of this coaching team just sort of like settled into place. And it wasn't really anything like, oh, you're hired, it was just sort of like, sure, you can help us out. And like, we need help with this. Are you willing to help with this? And things like that. And then this group sort of formed and they meshed really well together. The coaching staff, they work really well together. And I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. I'm very grateful for all of them for wanting to do this. And, we might find more people down the road to help out. We might not, like, who knows? It's at this point, I think the coaching staff is working really well. And our little interviews, it wasn't really an interview, like a job interview. It was just sort of like a get to know you thing. And I'm glad that we did that because we met a lot of interesting people and we got a really good group going here for our team.
Just a quick, you might have seen me react to it, but did you see a coach that was already coaching 6 teams?
That was an exaggeration.
Okay. I was like,
there was one woman who was like,
what the hell?
No, yeah, she was coaching 1 or 2 other teams, I think, and she wanted to be our head coach, but then she emailed and was very polite, was like, hey, I just don't think I have the time to dedicate to this team. So yeah, no, definitely not 6.
Okay. But no, to the general aspect of that, obviously, you know, again, I'm sure you want the right people in place, but to hear how that group works together and seeing everybody there and how that, I mean, it was, I remember during the last game before the Puck Place tournament took place, just seeing different coaching members of the staff get involved, talking to the players on the bench. I think I brought my camera that day because I wanted to get my own photos for it, and just seeing different coaches sort of step up during timeouts. I thought that was pretty cool because sometimes you might not see that. Sometimes it's just one person doing the talking. But obviously, with how this has all sort of formed, I'm sure that there's been so many working pieces. You just, again, want to have the right people in place. I know this might be sort of tough. And then the next one might be tough as well, because this is relating to watching the season unfold since you left it. But I'm sure you might have a few. But what are some of your favorite memories that you have from the inaugural season as a whole? I know that there were a lot of pains, I'm sure, to try and get everything going and try to continue things going, because I'm sure at sometimes maybe people were unsure about continuing. Might have been tough getting games scheduled, you know, working. I know that getting Montana set up was a whole thing. Boise State was supposed to come over. What are the positive memories that you take from the inaugural season?
Yeah, and I mean, there were some pains, but I think definitely the good outweighed the bad in this inaugural season. There were way, way more positive memories and positive experiences and just growing experiences than there were bad things. I was only there for the fall quarter. I left around Christmas time. So definitely I have some good memories from the fall. I don't have memories of going to Montana because I wasn't there, but I think something that really stands out to me, well, okay, I have to say, like, every single time I'm with this team, it's a good memory. Like, just being there, just being on the ice, just looking around at practice, seeing all these people who have never played hockey before, just dive in, go buy gear and come on the ice and learn how to skate, learn how to handle a puck. That's just incredible. Like, I'm so proud of this team. And every time I'm on the ice, I'm smiling because it's just like, wow, these people really just want to try this sport and are developing this passion that it's incredible to watch them really dedicate themselves to it. But I think if one memory stands out to me, it would have to be I think we called it like Washington Women's Hockey Night. It was our first home game that we hosted. It was on the big ice in the Kraken Community Iceplex, KCI, where, you know, the professionals play. That's where the Kraken practice with the stands and everything. So that was pretty cool. Our first home game, our first time selling tickets. And it was intended to be originally against Montana, but they weren't able to come. And then we tried to rally some other teams together. But unfortunately, one of the challenges of starting a women's team in the Pacific Northwest is that there aren't that many other teams, especially at the collegiate level. There's some women's teams nearby. We play Seattle women's hockey a lot, but there's a lot of schools around that are trying to get started. And I know Western's trying to start a team. I was messaging with the men's team at Oregon Dutch. They're trying to get a team going. I don't know how that's going, but I think Wazoo they have a website, but I don't know who's on the team now. But a lot of the schools around us don't actually have teams that we can play against at this point. I think we're actually, I heard this somewhere. I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that we're the first women's collegiate team in the Pacific Northwest. So that's incredible that we're the first, but also, you know, it makes it hard to place people. So that night, the Washington Women's Hockey Night turned into us playing ourselves and inviting 4 girls down from Western. And they joined one of our teams. They're trying to get a team going up there. So we tried to help them out, give them some advice, got them on the ice. They played a game against us. It was like us playing ourselves with some Western people mixed in. But yeah, that really stands out because that was our first home game. That was just incredible. Like, all my friends came, they brought signs, they made signs saying like, "Go Mia." And it was super cool. Like, just like a really fun experience of like, wow, like all of our hard work paid off and we really made this happen. And it was really just such a positive memory of like, all these people turned out in the stands for us. The people from Western came down for us and to play against us, and really just like a gathering of women's hockey community. And it was really a really important night, I think, for our team.
Yeah, no, I was curious to see, I don't know, again, with keeping up with some of them, do you have any knowledge of some of that momentum since you started back in the beginning of the season with this, of other teams around the area that might have started. Obviously, you talked about Oregon. I did see that there was the website for Washington State, but it's kind of bare bones at the moment. Do you know if there's any more of the momentum for that, or is it just kind of still trying to? I've heard bits and pieces, and you're not too sure about, any more actual progress.
Yeah, well, I know for a fact that there's one or two very dedicated people at Western who are trying to get this team going. But I do think that they are seniors or juniors right now, so they don't have that much time left. But we're trying to support them however we can. But I think our placement in pretty much downtown Seattle, as well as the timing of the Kraken coming, as well as having the resources of the coaches, I really think that we had a lot going in our favor. Just our location and the size of our school, and a lot of schools around us don't necessarily have the same opportunities as us. So it's important to us also to support the other teams. Oregon, I found out about them because their men's team DM'd us on Instagram and said, hey, we're trying to get a women's team going as well. So I don't know where they're at in their process. I know Wazoo, they have a website, like you said, but we emailed them and didn't hear any responses back. Boise State is up and running. I know that they're, for a fact, we almost played against them. I think we're going to next year. And then Montana State. So our closest competitors at the collegiate level, I think right now, are Boise State and Montana State, which obviously has challenges in itself too, the cost of getting there. But we're trying to support the other teams in the area and other people get started so that we can have some closer competitors.
And it's obviously interesting, to see what you've had to go through, I'm sure, with getting this set up, and then knowing that there is that taking place in these other areas with these other universities. So it is interesting to note that, because obviously I remember seeing on the schedule that Boise State game was coming up when it was, I was like, oh, Boise State,
Yeah.
But it was really interesting to see that. It was kind of funny. I misspoke and I said that we talked, I think, back in February. I looked at it. The first article I had from you guys is December 13th. So I was completely off. And you were actually on the team at the time. So I
was in Seattle then.
Memory. But no, it was super cool, at least, to go back to it. I know that we were talking about the memories of the team. Just to go back for a second to, I think even at that game, you had a couple friends come out with signs, and I was like, oh shit. I was like, is Mia famous? I was like, what's going on here?
They're my roommates, but they're my biggest supporters. So
well, I mean, that's good to have, obviously. And then, I mean, I think we'll get to it here with this next question, but seeing the reception that the game got in that final game, I brought the camera, I was ready to write, and it just, more and more people continue to fill rank 3, and it was incredible. I mean, obviously, I bought this one and a black one. They had all the beanies set up. I think they sold out of beanies, if I'm correct. I've got my sticker on my laptop here that I'm recording, but it got pretty damn loud in there. People were cheering for both sides of it. It was pretty damn incredible to see.
Yeah, and for me,
that was cool.
That's very meaningful that we have a lot of support for our team. But for me, also, it's very important that there are a lot of young girls in the rink who walk by and see us playing and realize, wait a second, UW has a team. Like, I thought if I wanted to play in college, I had to go to, I had to go to Michigan or Boston or something like that, but Minnesota. But, I think watching, especially like the young Wild girls walk by, or just, other club teams, and watching them stop and be like, whoa, what is that? So just like being in that rink and just having that, people can see us, people can know that we're here. And yes, we have a lot of friends, a lot of parents who support us, but also community members who can see us and want to support us too.
Yeah, I mean, just to, I don't know how much you heard from it, but letting you know what I was able to garner from that game. A lot of girls and women from, just really young ages, like middle school and lower, to like middle school, high school, saying, hey, UW has a team, and then UW people that were just Huskies, people that, men and women who just go to the university, like, oh, I saw this and that there was going to be a game here. And that was really incredible. And I didn't leave the rink until they said, hey, we're closing up, you got to get out of here. And I was like, oh. it was pretty damn cool. So with that being said, I don't know if you can equate it, but how difficult was it just seeing it unfold, or was it more of a, hey, this is really taking off and I'm proud that it's where it's at? I'm sure there's a little bit of both, but what was the feelings towards watching the season unfold after you left?
I mean, of course I'm proud that they kept going and took off while I was gone, but I have to say it was incredibly difficult to be away. I know that I'm here and I'm fulfilling a dream, another one of my dreams that I've wanted to do since I was young. But seeing the team progress and I'm just not there. They had their first picture day. They had their first travel tournament. They had their first end of the year banquet and senior night and things like that. And those are sort of, I did all this hard work in the beginning, and those are like the benefits that I could be, reaping. But yeah, so it's been pretty hard to be away. But I have to say, I just have to remember why I'm here and what I'm doing and why I'm actually away from the team. I am fulfilling another dream that I have. So professionally and otherwise. So it's just great to be here. And I know that I'll be back next season for my senior year and I'll be able to commit 100% to the team for the whole year. So that's just something that's getting me through it, knowing that I'll be there next year. It's okay. This stuff is going on and I'm missing it, but I'll be there next year and it's going to be okay. It's going to make it all worthwhile. So yeah, it has been hard to watch while I'm gone, but I'm really proud of people who have stepped up. There's people who really just took leadership positions while I'm gone and have just kept the team going and thriving. Had our prospect camp recently with some high schoolers, people as young as like freshmen in high school, I think, came to the prospect camp, which is incredible. Like people in the area now are realizing that they can play hockey in college. They don't have to go somewhere else. So yeah, that was pretty incredible. And I'm glad that people have stepped up while I'm gone. But I'll be definitely excited to go back in the fall.
Well, good to clear that up because I was curious about what your involvement would be once you returned. But at least in regard to the senior group that played this last season, I know when I spoke to them, they talked at length about you. What can you say about the senior group that just and technically graduated? I know that some of them, I think, said that they would still be involved with the team, and some of them would be with Seattle Women's. What can you say about that group of four?
Yeah, that group of four, they're incredible. I think none of the four of them played hockey before this year. They have various other experiences. So yeah, Megs, they had never played hockey before, but they're a senior now. They decided to dive in and jump in and just start playing. And I know now that they're looking to play in Seattle Women's next year. So it's incredible that they developed that passion and that they're going to continue playing. And Evelina as well, she actually isn't a student at UW. She is a Fulbright scholar, just visiting for the year to teach Finnish. And she had never played hockey before, but she's from Finland, which I think most people, are sort of born onto skates and they know the rules and things like that. So she had a basic background, but the fact that she just threw herself in, and I think she was a bit nervous about playing with, students since she's not a student, but I think she just threw herself in and she loved it. The team just took her in. She's one of us, obviously, of course. And she's looking now for opportunities to play in Finland when she goes back next year. So we're going to miss her, but I'm really glad that she found that passion in herself. And then Ariana, I think she had some figure skating background before coming to the team. And yeah, it's been amazing to watch her bloom as well and just blossom. She, is working with a stick and a puck now, which is different from figure skating, but I think she's loving it. So, and she's actually roommates with Bonnie. So I think that's part of the reason that she wanted to join, but now I think she's found this own passion within herself as well. And then of course there's Bonnie, the last senior. She's my co-founder. She's like the person that's been with me since the beginning. She's really been there, been supporting me, been helping me along the way, been doing this with me. Founding the team with me. So we're really going to feel her loss next year. And I think it really speaks to her character to say that she has never played hockey before, but she volunteered to be our goalie for this year. She just threw herself in, which I think if you do play hockey, becoming a goalie is a bit intimidating or not necessarily ideal. But she just did not care. She just, jumped in and was like, sure, I'll be goalie. When you need a goalie, I'll be goalie. So yeah, that just speaks to her character a little bit. And we're definitely going to feel her absence next year and we're going to miss her a lot. And I hope she can stay in the area.
Yeah, I was curious about that because I know at the end, after that game, it was like, oh, some of them will still be. I was like, oh, what does that mean? But no, I mean, talking to that leadership group, I think a few months before the season ended, they obviously mentioned you,
Mhm.
but just hearing about it was really cool just to hear, from a leadership group in such a, I think it's a unique situation, setting up a club team and then having to deal with a pandemic, and then just getting it set up with people who might not have ever touched the sport. Obviously, I'm sure there's a lot that goes into it. So it was really great to hear from them, and just hear their support even. Um, so you've already answered what your involvement will be for this group next year, which I'm glad. I was like, I don't know, who are you going to be?
Yeah,
What are you
I'll
looking
be back.
forward
I'll be
to?
president actually. So I mean, again, I was president last year, but I'm throwing myself in again, dedicating 100%. So I'll be there.
Uh, what are you looking forward to this upcoming season? I'm sure there's a couple different aspects of it, actually getting to play once again, seeing the new faces out there, seeing the returning faces, seeing it grow, I'm sure, because at least for me, as the season went on, it looked like there were more and more, people consistently that showed up.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you're looking forward to when we get around to the 2022-2023 season?
Yeah, so you definitely hit all the points. But also I think, yeah, I mean, being back in person, being back on the ice, being back with my team, I miss them. I'm really excited to go back. But also I think there's this aspect of I have worked so hard these past 3 years to get this team up and running. Now it's running, it's fairly self-sufficient. I mean, I think it's definitely going to continue on while I'm gone. So now's a chance for me to just sort of enjoy it. I can be there, I can go to practice and enjoy it and not stress too much. I mean, president has their duties, they have to do things as well, but not stress too much about, oh my God, is the team going to die when I'm gone? Like, no, it's not going to. I know that. So, just really enjoying it as a year to play hockey and a year to get to know my teammates. I love, getting on the ice during warmups and chatting with as many people as I can, just walking and skating up to people that I haven't talked to in a long time. Like, hey, how you doing? Like, haven't seen you in a while. Hope your classes are going well. Really just like getting to know my team. And like you said, we have new players coming in. I know from the prospect camp for a fact we have at least 2 people who are dedicated to UW, committed, and they're coming to our team. And then we'll do some more recruiting. But yeah, you're just getting to know new people, and things like that. So I think the hard work is still there, but most of the hard work has passed. And now's the time for me to just enjoy the team as a team and just meet the players and engage with them and go on the tournaments. And I'm very excited for it, for a real hockey season.
And then, I mean, I feel like that was a perfect way to end things, but I do want to ask you about your time in Finland. I know that obviously there was some other stuff that you were working with outside of hockey itself, but just kind of would like to hear, I guess, both sides of it, both, off the ice as well as on the ice for your time in Finland.
Yeah, I spent 10 months in Finland. Originally, I wasn't actually going to play hockey, but I reached out to my host parents there and they said, oh yeah, you can definitely, like, there's a women's team here. So I was emailing back and forth with them before I got there. So yeah, I spent 10 months there. I was with the host family. I went to high school. I played on the local women's hockey team, and that was an incredible experience for me. I think coming out of high school, I could have gone to college like everybody else, but I think it really, spending that year jumping into a country where nobody knows your name, you don't speak the language, you don't know where you're going, you don't know really who's around you. I think that's definitely an incredible experience. You really get to know who you are as a person. You get to know yourself. You get to learn your boundaries and what you're capable of, and you can really trust yourself in the situations, or learn to trust yourself. So that was an incredible experience. Meeting people, making friends. And then obviously my hockey team, I think, was one of the best things I did in Finland. They really pushed me to learn the language because, there's tired of translating every single drill for every single practice, every single night of the week. It's just that they're eventually going to stop speaking English and I'm going to have to learn Finnish. And so they really helped me, especially in the locker room, like the banter and stuff like that. You can't do it in English. So I think they really helped me learn the language and really helped me like get to know the culture. They were like team sauna trips. We all go to the sauna together. It was really fun. And then also I got to see a lot of Finland because of that. We traveled to various different cities, mostly the ice rinks, of course. So I saw a lot of ice rinks, but a little bit of other cities in the countryside and things like that. So yeah, it was definitely an incredible experience. I really am glad that I took that time to do that instead of just jumping into college. And I think it definitely inspired me to get this team going and showed me that, like, I have what is capable, like what's needed. I'm capable of getting this team going. I can do this. So yeah, it definitely helped me.
So, with that being said, I obviously mentioned thinking that last thing was a good way to end it, but no, certainly even this goes back to, getting other teams set up around the area. Just really interesting to see where people's different journeys have brought them, obviously in all different sports, but with hockey as well. Just to see the way that's grown, and to see the general reception to this team, as I mentioned, and to see, the growth of some of the players along the way, has been really cool, and I really appreciate obviously everything that you've done to get this set up. I remember I was actually working a Kraken game and I saw these two women I guess they had bought them on auction, these men's hockey jerseys, I guess, that they had auctioned off. And I saw UW and a hockey sweater. I said, okay, I have to. So I ran from my post. I was like, hey, where did you guys get these? Because I was like, hey, I'm a Husky. If these are something I could buy, I would buy one.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, I started talking about the men's team because I had seen something very briefly about the men's team at one point a few years ago, but I didn't give it any second thought. And then they're like, there's a women's team. I'm like, what do you mean there's a women's team? When did this start up? And they're like, actually, their season is really close. And I was like, oh, shit. And then obviously getting contact with you guys and just seeing it all unfold has been really cool. So one, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to do this one, to speak with me for this, but just everything that went into it. And then being able to cover that last season, this upcoming year will be a lot of fun. So with that being said, I always put social medias in the description. I'll obviously, like I did with Coach, have the website, LinkedIn, as well as the socials for the team. But is there anything that you want to leave with, anything that you want to just kind of end off with?
Yeah, I mean, well, thank you for having me. I'm really glad that you've taken interest in this team. It really means a lot. And I think it's definitely helping us get going. And I just want to say that I'm very proud of all of the players and coaches and community members who have come together for this team. And I'm very grateful to people who, have never played hockey. And I think the hockey world in Seattle is growing now because of the Kraken. People are sort of discovering it and falling in love with it, with the sport. And I think, now is a great time to be starting this team. And I'm really grateful and pleasantly surprised and very happy about the response we've gotten from community members and people in general, as well as the Kraken. So I'm just, thank you to everybody for supporting us. And thank you also to Charles for having me.
I don't think I do that much. I just think it's the proper representation that this team should have. So that's just the bare minimum.
I've never had a media coverage of my teams in the past, so this is pretty cool.
Well, again, it's like if there's coverage of the men's team, there should be coverage of the women's team. That's just how it should be. So, I mean, that's.
Speaking of that, it's actually the 50th anniversary of Title IX this year.
Yep, it has been interesting to see the different teams around the. I think the Sounders wore a patch the other day for it. The Reign, I think, when they play Washington this weekend, are going to have. I think that's one of the theme of the match. So, obviously, I mean, that's a big reason of why I started the show, was to not only obviously. There's tons and tons of accounts that look at the Seahawks and the Mariners, and even obviously the Kraken now. But how many of them are giving the accurate representation to the Storm, who have the most titles in this city, to the Reign, who have world-class players? Not enough, not nearly enough.
Right.
So even on the UW's aspect of things, since I've been doing the show, the most successful team, we're damn near up and neck with it, has been UW softball, and they don't get nearly as much as I would like them to. So, it's part of the reason we do the show. With that being said, I again appreciate all the time that you took for this, and looking forward to next. I cannot wait to get back out there to the Iceplex to see this continue. So Mia, I appreciate it, and looking forward to next year.
Thank you. Yeah.